Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I'm Patrick God, and today we will have a look at Blazor WebAssembly again and again. It is rather beginner stuff, namely, you've already read the title, right? We will cover the edit form of Blazor WebAssembly, and we will have a look at every single built-in component, meaning the input text, the input text area, the numeric field, so input number, the radio buttons, select box, the checkbox, and file inputs. I think that's everything. Maybe I just showed you the built-in components here on the side. So this is what we're going to do. And also we will have a quick look at validation. So how does the edit form work together with validation with Blazor WebAssembly, the built-in components. And additionally, we will start with a little table. So we will see some entities in there, then click an edit button. And then we see this entity in the edit form. And then we can update every property in essence. And that's it. So actually we can just start, but first, if you learned something and you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you click the like button and maybe even subscribe to my channel. It does make a difference and means a lot to me. Thank you very, very much. Don't forget to hit the bell icon, of course. Additionally, maybe you want to have a look at my newsletter. I promise won't spam you. At max, I write an email once a week, and with that newsletter you get this video here earlier in your inbox, and you will get early access to the upcoming .NET Web Developer Bootcamp. There we will cover the backend side with Web API, Entity Framework, frontend with Blazor, and also some other stuff like Git, Scrum, stuff you might want to know when you want to get a job in the .NET development world. So maybe this is interesting for you. And last not least, just made me a little tea this time. Thank you very much for all your support, guys. It's still really hot. Yes, do you see the steam? A little maybe. Nice. I will see this when I edit this video. So thank you so much for all your support, guys. I will love you forever. And now I stop talking. Enjoy the tutorial. All right, here we are. Visual Studio 2022. We create a new project, and this shall be a Blazor WebAssembly application. We call this thing Blazor EditForm tutorial. And now we want to use .NET 6, of course, and I am not selecting ASP.NET Core hosted this time because we really want to focus only on the client, so no web API whatsoever, just the client with the edit form. And there we are already. It's nice when things go a bit faster as usual. So let's close this thing here. Now I assume you're already a bit familiar with Blazor WebAssembly. If not, please have a look at my other videos or check out my courses maybe. Little commercial here. Thank you very much for staying with me. But now real quick, we've got our program CS, not important for us right now. Got the app Razor, imports, everything is here, everything we need. We've got our pages, our shared folder, and so on. So again, I hope you're familiar with all that stuff. And the first thing we need is actually a model. So let's create a new folder, call this models. And since I want to show you all the built-in components of the edit form, this model is a little bit bigger maybe, and it simply gets this name, character, but I promise these characters will be interesting. But real quick, let me show you the built-in components. There they are. So you see that in the Microsoft documentation for the Blazor forms and validation, March 23rd actually. Nice, this is pretty new. ASP.NET Core 6. When you scroll down here, you see how to build a form and so on. And this is the thing I wanted to show you. Built-in form components. So we've got the checkbox, input date file, and so on. And we will use all of them here in this little tutorial. And again, for that, we need a little model that is maybe a bit bigger than in my other tutorials. Okay, so first thing, although we are not using Entity Framework or any kind of database here, let me add an ID, and we will use this ID in the form. I know this is nothing you would usually do in production, but with that we can, for instance, use the InputNumber component. Okay, then the next thing is indeed a name, which is string empty at first, please with the lowercase s, then string bio. So with the name, we've got our default input text field, and here now we're using the text area. Then we've got a date time for the birth date, and let's say this is by default simply date time now, and then an image which will be a string. For this little tutorial I will upload another file upload video, create another file upload video where we will see how to store images on the server. So if you haven't already, please subscribe and maybe activate the bell icon, then you will get a notification when this video is online, or you subscribe to my newsletter, then you will get early access to this video. But enough about that. Now here for the image we will use a base 64 string. All right, so this now is also string empty, and base 64 means that we will turn a PNG, a JPEG, whatever, into a string, and then the default image HTML element will use the string for its source. So this should work. Then the next thing is I want to show you the radio buttons, the radio group with radio buttons, and also a drop down, so the input select component. And for that we will use teams and the difficulty. Yes, difficulty, because I don't know, let's say this is a video game character and we choose a difficulty and a team for this character. So I think then this makes a bit more sense. So we've got an integer for the team ID, and this is crucial here. We will create in a minute also a class team and a class difficulty, but let's initialize this with 1 to make the radio buttons and the select, drop down, select box, combo box, you name it. To make it work, we need the ID here. Cannot use the actual model or the actual entity. And by the way, it was interesting, before .NET 5 actually you couldn't even use the select box with a string, for instance. You had to use an integer. So, but this is old stuff, not true anymore. Now you can use anything in essence, but it is easier in this specific case, at least in my opinion, to use an ID here for an integer. Yeah, and the last thing here for the checkbox is just a Boolean value. Is this character ready to fight? And by default, yes, it is. So this is our character, and now the teams and the difficulty. For that we add another model. First, let's say the difficulty, and this is quite small now. We have an ID, and we have a string for the title, again empty by default. And now the last model here is our team, and here as well the ID, and the other thing now the name of the team, string empty by default. Okay, with that now we've got our models. This is a string. Let's fix that real quick. Okay, so the team, the difficulty, and the character. Hope I got that correct. And now we can move on with the page. So let's create a characters page here. This is a new Razor component. Call this characters. All right, it's a page, so we add the page directive like that. And now also add an entry here to the nav menu. Call this characters. Did I call it again page? Made this error in another tutorial as well. Talking and writing code is not that easy sometimes. So characters is the href, the page route, and we call this also characters. And there is a people icon. Let's try this real quick. There it is. We've got our characters here. Beautiful. So this is the page. It works awesome. So now the next thing I want to do is we go to the characters page, and again a short disclaimer here. Usually it is better practice to user service, for instance, where you would put your data. I mean, in production, you would probably use a database with a web service and Entity Framework Core with the SQL Server, for instance, or SQLite, and so on. Again, I got a bunch of videos about that stuff, but now for this edit form here, I will do something that is, well, not best practice. We implement everything here in this characters razor file, meaning we have no code behind file, although this is, I don't know if it's better practice to use a code behind file. It's, I guess, just up to you if you want to use it, but the code will be a bit bigger, and also the HTML will be bigger because we got a bigger edit form, right? So long story short, let's just do everything here, and the first thing we need is we want to prepare some data, meaning we will add a character here, we will add the teams and also the difficulty. And the first thing, let's add a static list of teams, and to make this work, I think we have to add something here. Yep, not available. So let's add it to the razors, to the import file, I mean, and now here the models. Stop. And now it works. Okay, so these should be our teams, and this is a new list of teams, and we initialize it first with a new team where the ID is 1 and the name is Avengers. And now here are the people of the Justice League. Alright, and by the way, if you are bored by all this boilerplate code, then please check out the chapters or the time codes below. Then you can jump to the actual edit form and don't have to deal with all this code here, because I usually really don't just copy and paste code. I think it's not that fun, not that good to learn in tutorials when we use that in tutorials. So I try to write the code from scratch every time and rarely copy paste stuff from any prepared code I have on the other screen or so. Okay, now, no, well, not, I'm too fast, not the characters. Let me first add the difficulties. That's what I wanted to do. So here now, difficulty, Jesus, diff. Yeah, that's the one. English. Okay. So, and here we need 3. Please feel free to use, or to be creative and use titles that are more fun maybe. But I'm using just the boring, easy, normal and hard. Okay, so we've got normal, hard, again, just for learning purposes, so we can use the input select component here. And now regarding the characters, let's just add one character so we can see this one already. It's a new list of character. Again, open the curly braces, and here we've got a new character. And this one gets some data. We've got the ID 1, the name, Peter Parker, then the bio, short text, that's the dude hanging out in New York City. And then we've got, wait, add a comma here, then we've got the birth date. This is according to, I guess, homecoming. Date time, August 10th. Then the team ID will be 1. See that? Avengers, right? So now we can use this ID here. And that's, by the way, why I use the static teams here. And now the difficulty ID, well, let's say Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, if you don't know that, is an easy opponent. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, is it ready to fight? Yes. And now the image, just talked about copy pasting, but this is something I would really copy paste. Got some data here for the image, and then you see how the string looks like. Let me just get that real quick. Boom, there it is. Okay, so this is now our image. And again, if you have a look, an older video by me on this channel regarding creating a block with Blazor, but this was, I think, even before .NET 5, not sure about that. There we use also the file upload I will show you here and stored this string in the database. But again, there are other ways to do that. Of course, we can store the file on the server, so this is something for another video. Okay, with that now we've got our mock data in essence, and now there are two more things I wanna add here. The first thing is the actual character that we wanna edit. So the edit form needs a model in the code, and this will be our character here, and we call this list characters, and then the arrow goes away. And another thing is I want to add a flag that is telling us if we currently want to add a new character or we are editing and updating an existing one, because the idea of this page is now we have a little table where we display a list of our characters, and then we see a little button where we can then say that we want to edit this character, and then we do not switch the page. We see this edit form on this very same page. So really, well, not the best design, maybe, I don't know. But it's quite simple, and we can stay on this same file here. So first the table. So this is of class, or this gets the class table. This is provided by Bootstrap. We add a little header here with a row, and the only things I want to display in this table here are the image. So this would be the first column. Then let's also add the ID and the name. Alright, so that should be it. And then we need another column for the edit button. So this should be the header then. And now regarding the body, let's first use a for each, of course. Because with that, let me use the built-in snippets. That's the one for every character in our characters collection. We then say a new row, please, and then first the image. Now for that we use the image element here, where the source, come on, HTML, source is now character image. We use the rounded class because, well, I want to do some fancy CSS stuff. Again, rounded is provided by Bootstrap, but one more thing I want to do, and I know inline styles should not be used, never, of course, but I don't care. So the maximum height is 100, right? So this image shouldn't be that big then in this table. And then the other things are more easy. We can just add the character ID, and then we add the name, and now the last thing, the button. So we've got a button here with the class button primary, and on click we will call a function. On click, that's our event here. So we need the ID, so that's why we use this statement here, and we will call this function edit character with the character ID, and then we add an icon here with the class OI for open iconic, and they've got this cute pencil icon, and this should be it for the table. And now let's add this edit character method real quick. So down here, you see, this is already getting quite big, right? So maybe with the code behind file, it would work a bit better. It would be a bit more organized. I leave that up to you. Tell me in the comments what you think. Code behind, not code behind in this case, would be really interesting. So for that now, private void edit character, we get the ID. Okay, and Visual Studio is jumping around. And now we say our character to edit is characters find, and then where the ID equals the given ID. And if our character to edit is not null, we say that, no idea what Visual Studio is doing here, but it is jumping around. Character equals character to edit, and is new is set to false. And yes, usually, well, not usually, but we could simply say character is characters find and so on, and then set the is new flag to false. But I think this works as well. And now let's test that really quick, just to see if we already get our Peter Parker in the table. Is it open? Yep, there it is already, and you see it works. Nice. So we've got that, and now we click edit. We don't see anything because we haven't added the edit form yet, but this is what we will do right now. So let's add a little space here. And now the edit form. Well, let's just do we have to check if the character is null? Not really, right? So let's just add the edit form. And I already told you this thing gets a model. So this is important. The model is now our character. Remember this guy down here. And then there we are. Then we have to call a function on submit, and there are these functions here: on submit, on valid submit, and on invalid submit. So we can decide what to do if, when we use validation, what is happening if the form is not valid. Then what do we want to do? What happens if the form is valid, and so on. I think you get the idea. Now, for this example, at the end, I want to use a little validation. So let's use on valid submit, and we call this method then handle submit. And maybe let's also add this function real quick down here. We just say private void handle submit. And in this specific case, what we want to do is, if the character is actually new, then we just say characters add and then character. Okay, if the character is not new and we are using the editing or the updating, then we actually don't have to do anything here. If, again, we would use this web service with a web API and entity framework maybe, then we would make a web service call here. But this is not necessary because of the data binding. So we added exactly the same character that is displayed in the table, and you will see what I mean by that in a couple of minutes. But now let's write our edit form. So the first thing is the ID. And for that, we add a div and then a label, where we say for the ID, call this ID. And the next thing is now our input number. And again, I know you would never do that in real life. Why the heck would you change the ID? But to show you the input number component, we do that here. Then bind value character ID, and the class, again, by bootstrap form control. And by the way, it's still not pretty. Although we've got bootstrap here, we would have to add some more margins and padding so that we got some space between the controls, and I could add them here. But really, I'm not a designer. I'm not good at this stuff. But what is coming, and maybe if you're watching this, it is already on my channel, I will do exactly the same or almost exactly the same tutorial with Blazor. So we're using then these UI components of Blazor, and then this will look pretty. I think much prettier, much prettier than this stuff here that I'm currently building. Okay, so maybe it is already online. Then check out the info card or the end screen with the video there then. And all that should look much better then. Okay. Anyways, so we've got our input number, and then let's just copy this stuff. Now that we typed it already, we can say for the name, name, input number, not number, input text would be the component now. ID is your name, and here also we will use the name. So copy this again, and then we are using the bio. So bio here, also here, we bind the bio, and this time it's a text area. All right. So already 3 components covered. And then we use the date. So for the birth date, also birth date here, and also here maybe, we've got an input date control actually. So input date it is. All right. Then the next thing is, well, don't have to copy paste actually, because the next thing already is the radio buttons and then the select box. But what we can add actually is the checkbox maybe, and then now let's do it one step after another. So we see that already, and I think we can now test this again. Yep, we try to rebuild everything. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, okay. I told you it's not pretty, but I think this kind of works. When I click here now, I see the number field, and the important thing is, well, these arrow buttons here, right? I can just increase and decrease the ID, and you see it in the table here. It's binded, so it's updated as soon as I click this button here. Pretty nice actually, but of course if you want to store this in database, this would work a bit differently. Then we've got our name. Let's say this is now Amazing Spider-Man, updated. The bio here, so we can add some stuff, and also the dates, can change that as well. Great. Okay, so these components already work. Now it's getting a little bit more complicated with the radio group and the radio buttons. First, again, we add a div, and then the label is for the team. We also call this team. And then we add first the input radio group, because this will be a group of radio buttons. The ID is team. And now bind value is pretty similar. So bind value, the character team ID. And also let's add the class form control. And now inside of this radio group, we say for each team in teams, we say input radio, and then the parameter value at team ID. But what we want to display is something else, so we add a span. Actually, not like that. We close it here, so we don't need it here anymore. But now we add a span with a little style, so we get some space, padding, left 5 pixels, and then we say team name, and then after that we add a new line, like that. Okay, let's test that real quick. It's rebuilding, nice. Alright, something is missing. Yep, I forgot the new line here. So let's try now. Yep, there it is, updated. And we need much more space here. So maybe we can just add a paragraph. Well, not really. Can we add some height here? Style, height, 500 pixels. I know. Okay, so we get some space, and here you can see then we can actually set the team, and when I now click here, you see it jumps to Avengers. Nice. So the radio buttons work as well. Next thing now is our select box, or the input select component. For that again, we add another div and a label, this time not ID, for the difficulty. We say the text also is difficulty, of course. Then we've got our input selects, ID is difficulty again. We bind the value character difficulty ID with the class form control. So that would be the input select, and now in there we need some options. Again, we use a for each for that, and for every difficulty in difficulties we say option value is the difficulty ID, and we want to display the difficulty title. All right. Okay, let's test that now. There it is. Again, we actually need some space here, but anyways, easy, normal, hard. Nice, isn't it? So I can set this to hard maybe. When I click edit here, I see easy again. So, and that quick you can build the input select. Alright, so with that out of the way, there are only two left, the checkbox and the input file. Now first let's add the checkbox. We have a div, add the class form group. Although I'm not sure if this is necessary, let's remove this. Then we've got our input checkbox now. This is the component we are going to use. The ID is ready to fight, because the new thing here is that I added the label after the checkbox. Ready to fight. And the class then is form check label, and we call this ready to fight. And here now again we just bind the value character is ready to fight, and here the class would be form check input. Okay, save that, and there it is. Okay, click edit. Yep, this works. And now the last thing, maybe most interesting, I don't know, the input file. So we've got the div, the label is now for the image, and we call this image, and we use the input file component with the onChange event here. For that we call another method onFileChange, and we will implement that in a minute. The class now here is also form control, and that's it already actually. But let's also add the image up here so we directly see the change. So div and then the image. Actually, we can copy this time. So we've got our image here. That's it. And let's paste it here, but maybe make this a bit bigger. Okay, now on file change, we'll implement that. Well, let's just add the method, but maybe not the body yet. So this is now private avoid on file change. And then this thing needs an input file change event arguments. Let's call this E for events. And well, let's just implement it real quick. So the thing with on file change now and the input file component. So this is a little bit more complicated again, that with the event we get a file, and what I want to do here is we request the image file and resize it a little bit. And then from that we create a buffer. And with that thing, we open a read stream. And then with that thing, we create the actual image data and then put that image data to our character image property. Okay, so let's first say we've got the format, which is image PNG. Then var resized image is actually the method we need here is an async method, so we have to use also async task here, and then we can say await e file and then request image file async. See that asynchronous function, and here this gets our format image PNG and then the size I want to use here. After that, our buffer, which is new byte array with the resized image size, like that, capital S, and then await resized image, open read stream, and then read async with the buffer. And the last, almost last thing, image data is a string now. Looks like that, data, and then the format, and then base 64. And after that, we say convert to base 64 string, and this gets now our buffer. And after that, we set the character image to image data. All right. Okay, now before we test this, let's have a quick look here. As you can see, we do not add a button yet. No submit button, so this function is not called. We are currently, in essence, just editing a character, and we do not have to save this, so we do not really need the submit button for now. So we can actually test that with our Spider-Man, but if we want to add another character, we would have to add a button for creating, and then, so with creating, I mean initializing the character and then saving it to the, or adding it to our list of characters. So now let's start this. I hope this now works, but succeeded. Okay, now there we are. This is here in the edit form, the new character. Now if I click edit, we see the image here. That's nice, right? So let's change the file here maybe. And let's say Spider-Man looks a bit different now. Got this image, and it's also already updated here. So editing in essence works, right? We saw that. So let's create a new character real quick. And for that we add a button first here below the table. Button class btn primary on click. we say create character and then create new character. And of course we need the method, but also now here in the edit form we say first a new line and then button type submit. That's important. And please keep in mind, if you add any kind of button here, by default this is also a submit button. So if you want to add a button in the edit form that does something different than submitting this form, you have to specify the type button. Just keep that in mind. I had to learn the hard way. So with that now we say class button primary again, and now let's just say, well, no, let's check if this is a new character. If so, we call this button then create character, and if not, we say update character, and this should be it for that button. And then let's already add another button to delete the character. So if isNew is false, then in this case we say button, and then as I just said, type is also button, class btn danger. So we've got this button in a red color, and then on click delete character, and then also say here delete character. Okay, so now we need methods. We've got the edit character, we've got the handle submit, so now we need create character and delete character. So private void create character would look like that. We've got character is a new character, and then is new is set to true, and private void delete character, jumping around, is characters remove character. Alright, let's test this now. There we are. ID now is 2. Bruce Wayne is the name. This guy's pretty rich. And the date now is, I know maybe that's not the format you're used to in your country, but I hope that's still okay for you. This guy is in the Justice League pretty hard, and he gets this image, create, there he is, Bruce Wayne with ID 2, and now we can click edit here. We see Peter Parker. We can change the name, for instance, Spider-Man, and maybe just leave the text field, then it is already updated. Okay, so this works, and this works as well. Now we can click create new character with ID 3 now, for instance. Tony Stark, flying around and shooting. The birth date is this one, according to Google. Avengers correct, but not ready to fight. This is the image. Create the character. There he is. Okay, we can edit this guy. We can change the name, of course. Iron Man. Say he's ready to fight now. Update the character. Well, don't need update here in this case. We see Iron Man. Okay, so this works really good, I think. And now real quick, the validation part. So again, I did this already in other tutorials, and here I just want to show you a little bit of the validation that you use in an edit form. For that, we have to go to our character model, and in here now we can use some attributes. For instance, we can say that the ID is required, and for that we need this namespace here, system component model data annotations, and let's say the same is true for the name. And also we can define something else, like if we just want to make sure that the lowest possible ID is 1, then we use range 1, and well, yeah, we can say that the max ID is 10, or in our case we say the max value of the integer type is our maximum. And what we can also do is we can define custom error messages. For instance, here we say not in quotation marks, first error message is please give this character a name. Thanks. Like that. We save this, and maybe let's also add an error message here, because otherwise you would see this crazy big number. So error message would be something like the ID can't be smaller than 1. And now we remove this. No, wait, that's correct now. Okay, so we've got 1 for the lowest number, the max value of the integer type as the maximum, and then the error message. Jesus, it's late again. And with that, now we have to add one more thing, or two more things actually, in our edit form. First, we need the data annotations validator. This is the thing. Maybe it gives us information here. Adds data annotations validation support for or to an edit context. So now this thing checks if the form is actually valid, and if not, and we want to see the messages, then what we can do is add the validation summary down here, or for every single component we could also add the validation message, the specific validation message. So then we would, for instance, add the validation message directly under the specific component. But now let's just use the validation summary, save this and run it, because we got an error before. There it is. And now if I click create character, the ID can't be smaller than 1. Please give this character a name. Thanks. And we've got these things here. If I remove this, we get a default error message. The ID field must be a number in this case. All right. So this then shall be 2. And again, if I say this is Bruce Wayne, this is green now, and we can actually create the character. There is our guy. Let's edit this one, give him an image, and there's the image. Great. And now to make this complete, let's also add the validation message. So we've got the summary, and now what we can do here for this example, you could add a validation message, and then we've got this parameter here and this crazy lambda expression again. So this is just for the character name. Let's just close it here. And then also for the number, the ID, like that. Save it again. Let's have a look. We just say create. We see the error messages here, and also now down here. And in this case, then we could maybe remove the summary, just leave the specific messages here. Can remove this, for instance, create character. Nope, does not work. When I add 2, hit enter. Still not working. Can leave this now. Hit enter now, and it gives me the error message again. So this time maybe, or again Bruce Wayne. Why not? I like this guy. So Bruce Wayne it is. Create the character, and now it worked. Okay, so this is the edit form now with all the validations. Again, as always, I will push this to GitHub, and then you can get the code. You can get the URL of the repository below this video in the video description. So there you have it. This is the edit form with Blazor WebAssembly, the bootstrap design, and also the validation stuff. Next week, really important, we will have a look at the same stuff with MutBlazor. So maybe if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Then of course you get a notification when you hit the bell icon here, when the new video is then uploaded. So exactly the same stuff done with MutBlazor. Looks way better in my opinion. So this is what we're going to do next week. Additionally, maybe again, consider subscribing to my newsletter. If you do that, then you will get an email once a week. Usually, maybe it's even less than once a week, but you will get this video here or these videos here on YouTube also earlier in your inbox, couple of days actually, and people like this, so maybe this is also something for you. Apart from that, you get early access to the upcoming .NET Web Developer Bootcamp. And last not least, again, the tea. Thank you so much for all your support, guys. Love you forever with that stuff. I stay awake at night when my little toddler is asleep, hopefully. So then I make these videos. So thank you so much for watching. If you want to watch more videos regarding .NET, Blazor and other stuff, maybe then check out these videos here on the side. Maybe there's something for you. Keep watching. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for watching my videos, and I see you next time. Take care.